What's up, everybody? It's time for Bets Against the Spread because it's Tuesday and we have football tonight. And we have Matt LaMarca and Joe Holka, too. How you guys doing? What's up, Joe?
I'm good, man. I keep feel like I say this every week, but week 14 already. If you just sit back and think about it for a second, that it's actually week 14 and we're on like the down slope of the NFL season. It's
Yeah.
just flown by. I got wrecked last week. I don't know how LaMarca did, but I'm just ready to move on to this one.
Maddie, do you want to air any grievances? This is a very safe place for you.
Yeah, I felt like I had a couple games go against me that I didn't necessarily think should. Um, the biggest one being the Bears. They were
Yeah.
up, double digits for the majority of that game versus Detroit, and then gave up 14 points in the final 2.5 minutes. So that was fun. Other than that, nothing really crazy. So hoping that we run a little bit better here in week 14.
Two lessons from this past week. Mark, I'm with you on the Bears, man. I mean, just absolutely killed. Mitch was doing exactly what I said Mitch was going to do. He was tearing them up. And then the Bears defense just decided the last second, hey, it'd be a great idea if we sucked too, and just completely collapsed in on themselves. And I will never bet on the Atlanta Falcons again. Like, I'm out. Like, I'm just totally out. Every time I don't bet on them, they win. Every time I do bet on them, they lose. It's not great. They almost got, man, but even that, it's just heartbreaking. So let's see how some other teams can break our heart. We're going to skip over the Tuesday night game because that's week 13. We're on to week 14 already, guys. We're moving forward. And we're going to talk about Thursday night. Cam Newton, Jared Goff, Patriots, and Rams in Los Angeles. The Rams are 6-point favorites. This is a very conspicuous total of 44 and a half, depending on where you're looking. Let's start with you, Joe Holka. Well, what's up with this total? How you feel about 44 for two offenses? I mean, the Ram in the same stadium, the Patriots just put up 45. What are we doing here? What are we doing here with this total?
Yeah, well, number one, I'm a little bit upset with you guys that you didn't tell me about this narrative, this Bill Belichick narrative against a rookie quarterback, because I was not on that side of that overall. So I think this is a really tough spot overall for the Patriots, just in general. I don't know if the pieces really fit together like they did last week. Like, in theory, the Patriots are having the most success when they're running the ball, right? And that's extremely hard to do against this Rams front. So if they can actually make Cam Newton sit back there in the pocket and make plays with his arm, I think it could be a long day for Cam and the Patriots in this one. I think the Rams are a very good team. I think their defense could kind of take them a long way. We've seen what they've been able to do in this division to some of the best teams in the NFC in general. So LaMarca, I kind of want to be on the Rams side of this one, and I think they cover.
I agree with that. You look at the Patriots, right, coming off of a 45-0 win.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's got to be one of the most interesting box scores you'll ever see. 45 points, and their starting quarterback had 69 passing yards. They only put up 291 yards of total offense. Like, they
That's
had
called
two special
efficiency.
teams touchdowns.
Efficiency.
It's not efficiency. That's luck, Dieter. It's called flukiness. Fading teams coming off of a monstrous win like this is a proven system long term. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me right now, but I can look them up if you give me a chance. But regardless, this Rams team, in my opinion, remains one of the most underrated in football. I don't think people really consider them like a threat to win the NFC, but I am there. I think that this team, they can do it on both sides of the ball. They can stop the run, they can stop the pass. Jared Goff, still not a great quarterback, but Sean McVay can design enough stuff for him. I mean, they were able to pretty much throttle Arizona last week, and I know we have some questions still about Kyler Murray, but impressive win in my opinion. And I think that this Rams team is still not getting enough respect.
Well, let me ask you this, LaMarca. Is there a team in the NFC that you do respect, like inherently? The Saints are the 1 seed right now. They still have Taysom Hill as their quarterback. I can't comment any further because I've been burned too many times now. But like, is there a team in the NFC that you actually like? It might be the Rams.
I mean, I'm talking about, it's all relative, right? It's how much do I
Totally.
like them relative to their current betting numbers.
Yeah.
And for me, the Rams might be at the top of that list in the NFC.
What are you
I was
seeing on
running
them?
through my list of teams that I think could win the conference, and I still have the Rams, the Bucks, the Saints, and the Packers.
The
Okay.
I'm
Cardinals.
not putting Seattle in that conversation. That's kind of where I draw the line.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think the Rams are very live.
I agree with you. So long as they don't have to run into the 49ers, who they can't seem to beat for any good reason. They can
I
beat
don't
every
think
other
they have
team
to
in the
worry about
NFL.
that, Dieter.
Yeah, I think that is a very accurate representation of what's going on there. So we're both. I'm hearing here that you're both taking the Rams to not just win, but to cover the touchdown spread. How do we feel about the total in this one? Do the Patriots put up enough points to get us over 44? This is kind of an old school total here.
Yeah, I think it's the under for me. I don't really like either of these offenses in this spot. We just saw what what this team was able to do to Justin Herbert. I don't think it's going to be any different for Jared Goff. Like Jared Goff has really struggled against the Patriots historically as well, just because Belichick knows how to bring different things his way that he really struggles with. So yeah, I don't think either offense really is going to have a ton of success here. So even though that is a pretty low over under, I still think I'm pretty comfortably on the under in that spot.
You with them, LaMarca?
I don't see a ton of value in this total. If you think that the Rams can win this game, then it means that the Patriots are probably going to have to pass more than they want to, which will likely make this game a little more paced up than some of the other Patriots games recently. I'll side with the over just because this is a pretty low total for 2020, but
Yeah.
Not worth a bet in my opinion.
Hey man, garbage time touchdowns count too, at least when we're talking totals. Let's get to the main slate. How do we want to start here? Let's start with Tennessee and Jacksonville. Let's do Tennessee and Jacksonville first. Tennessee, 7.5-point favorites with a 53-point total. This game is in Jacksonville. Tennessee, listen, man, Tennessee's pretty damn good. Jacksonville is feisty. Who wins out in a battle of good versus feisty, Matt LaMarca?
Yeah, I can't believe I've turned into like Mr. Jacksonville. Like I've had them 2
Duval.
weeks in a row, and I think I'm gonna be on them again.
Okay.
Like Ryan Tannehill and the Titans offense is going to move the ball in this game. There's no doubt about it. I have major questions about whether the Titans defense can get any stops. They were already a pretty pedestrian unit, especially in terms of pass rushing.
Right.
And now they don't have Jadeveon Clowney anymore. And it's not like Clowney has had this monster season for the Titans, but he's one of their best defensive players. And now they have to figure out how to get stops without him, and they were struggling with him. So Mike Glennon, not a good quarterback. But if you give him time, and he can use his 7'13" frame to scan the defense and find his receivers. He can do some things. He can pick you apart a little bit. So I think this game is going to be high scoring, but I think that the Jags can hang in there. I do.
All right. 7.5-point spread. Joe Holka, is that too little for your blood? Because obviously Tennessee's going to be favored here.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of forgetting that Tennessee has just dominated this matchup for what feels like years at this point. So the past 10 meetings across these two teams, I know, like, I'm not really big on this team versus this team, like those type of trends overall, but 8-2 straight up, 7-3 against the spread. So obviously earlier this year in week 2 was a pretty high scoring game in general, 33-30. So Jacksonville was a 7-point underdog in that one. So I think one thing that's interesting, you mentioned that Jaguars in chat right now, we have Anthony Miko saying all they do is cover 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games. So the Jaguars have been a little bit better than the public has been willing to kind of say. So I think that it's an interesting one overall. And to be frank, I basically have been running really hot with Derrick Henry until last week. My only Derrick Henry share, Dieter, was my Derek Carr team with Waller. So I just ruined that team. I think it's still cash, but it was a very good team outside of Derrick Henry. So I'm just going to double down on that this week. I think he gets back on track. I do like Tannehill a lot overall. So I think if I'm going to be so bullish on Tennessee in this spot, I have a hard time being on the Jacksonville side of this one, even if it's 7 points.
I buy what you're selling.
What's Henry's ownership going to be in DFS this week, Holka?
I don't know, man. People
70%?
just love playing this guy. I think he's going to be low owned every week, and then I play him last week. I just get absolutely buried on my best team. It's the worst.
Hey man, this is high stakes DFS, so you can't be complaining about stuff like this.
Garrick Henry has been good to me this year. I should actually stop complaining. You're right.
All right. Let's talk about Kansas City and Miami. Kansas City 7.5-point favorites on the road in Miami, scene of their Super Bowl win last year, a 49.5 point total. Though I am seeing on FanDuel 48.5. So get fancy. Man, this is going to be a fascinating game because Miami, obviously a very well-coached defense, but do they have the dudes to slow down Patrick Mahomes and that incredible Chiefs offense? What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I just haven't really made, too much of a habit of betting against Mahomes this year, which is going pretty well. I'm just not. I'm not a big draft guy in general, so sometimes I'm a little bit behind on some of these prospects overall. Sometimes even the quarterbacks, right? Like Tua comes in here, and I pretty clearly love this team a lot more with Fitzpatrick. Like, am I crazy? I understand that the long-term move is, get Tua in there, all that stuff. I get it. But I mean, I don't know. Like Tua versus Patrick Mahomes in this one, it's pretty easy to me. I don't know. This one seems straightforward. Are you on the other side, LaMarca?
I don't know. I'm a little bit less enthused about Kansas City than you are. They haven't covered in 4 straight games, guys.
Yeah.
We think they're this dominant team. Going through their game log, they beat the Broncos at home by 6. They beat Tampa by 3. And that final score was not a fair indicator. Kansas City was up pretty big in that game, but still, they didn't cover. They beat they beat the Raiders by 4 and they beat the Panthers by 2. Like, this team, for as good as we think they are, they just have not been able to get that big blowout win since they beat up on the Jets, which doesn't really mean anything.
No, that doesn't count. I mean, my question to you, LaMarca, is what do you make of that? Obviously, do you think that they are a lesser team, or do you think that they're just a team that plays down to their level of competition? And does that even matter if we're having to bet this week? I mean, it might come into play come playoff time when you can't dog it, but what's to say that week 14 is going to change anything?
Who knows?
Yeah, I know. Let me ask you vague rhetorical questions and hope that you can come up with deep answers.
Meanwhile, you've got Miami, and I think you look at the final score of that game last week and you say, wow, they only beat the Bengals 19-7, but they put up 406 yards of offense in that game. That's a pretty good number, and I'm with Joe. I have concerns about Tua. I wonder if this team would be better right now playing Ryan Fitzpatrick, but 406 yards of offense is pretty darn good. In fact, they've only had a couple of games with more than that so far this season. So I'm conflicted on this one. I don't like to bet against Patrick Mahomes unless I have a good reason to. I don't see a great reason to right now.
Okay.
But at the same time, these Kansas City spreads just continue to feel a smidge inflated.
What number would you feel comfortable with? I mean, obviously it's 7.5, and you might even be with them right now. At what number would you be like, pound it? Obviously, you can get real low, but how high can it be?
I would, if I was grabbing Kansas City here, I would need it to be less than a touchdown.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Again, we're not talking like we're off by a ton.
It might move that much. We already see. I mean, it's early yet, but 56% of the spread bets on Miami. I don't think it'll move a whole point, but especially with Kansas City money coming in, people love betting the Chiefs. So we'll see. We'll see. I bet it can come down a little bit. How do we feel about this total of 49? It feels like that's very respectful to both the Miami offense and the Miami defense. I feel like this is maybe putting a little bit too much stock in the Dolphins. What do you think, LaMarca?
Yeah, I'm not great at totals like these. I would say my initial gut lean is that this is probably a smidge high if you think that the Dolphins are the correct side. Like, if the Dolphins are going to win this game, they need to keep it in the 20s or cover this game. If they let the Chiefs get up to the 30s, their offense isn't necessarily going to be able to match that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Joe, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I think LaMarca said it right. If you think that the Dolphins are the right side here, then maybe it's a little bit high. I tend to think that the other side is a little bit more enticing, so I'm on the over. 90% of the betting dollars so far are on the over, very early in the week, obviously. But I think that's the side I'd be on if I was to bet this total.
All right, let's talk about some game managers. Let's talk about the Minnesota Vikings and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Kirk Cousins, Tom Brady, 6.5 point spread for the Buccaneers at home, which kind of jumps out at you a little bit, seeing how Minnesota's won some games recently and are firmly in the playoff hunt. 51.5 point total. We start with boots on the ground, Joe Holka. When it comes to the Minnesota Vikings, I mean, how scared are people after going to overtime with Jacksonville? Are we out? Are we out on the Vikings now?
I mean, the one thing that I do differ from a lot of people in this state is that I do kind of like Kirk Cousins, at least from a fantasy perspective, and he's been balling out, man. I don't know. Can you call him a game manager? This guy has been unbelievable down the field.
Managing the hell out of some games. I mean, listen, he manages games.
He's not a playmaker. Games, but he also can. I mean, is he not a playmaker? He's one of the most accurate deep ball throwers we have in the entire league. Yeah, he has Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, but I don't know. I'm not ready to call him a game manager. I mean, I guess you have Dalvin Cook back there. You can do whatever you want. They're going to hand the ball off 30 times a game anyways. But I think he's been pretty good overall. I mean, he's got what? No 5 straight games with a quarterback rating over 100. I mean, I think that's pretty good. You can say what you want about this guy, but he can be efficient. So this is an interesting game overall. I will be on the side of Tom Brady being a little bit more of a game manager at this point of his career. -6.5 is kind of a weird number. I don't really know what to do with this one in terms of the side. I think it'll be high scoring, and I mean that the total looks like it will flush that out as well. So this one, from a betting perspective, kind of feels like a little bit of a stay away for me. Do you have any takes on this one, LaMarca?
Yeah, I'm buying Tom Brady. Coming off of a bye, I think that this is a spot for the Tampa Bay to sort of reassert their dominance. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago that we were saying they were the best team in the NFC.
Who was saying that?
Right up there with the Chiefs. And again, I hate to keep going back to these Brady trends, but Tom Brady, off of a loss in his career, or since 2003, I should say, now 40-14 against the spread, including 4-0 this season.
It's a Belichick trend.
I'm
exactly.
Gonna
except for that 4-0 this year.
Brady off of a loss.
That's fair. That's fair. We like angry Tom around here.
Is that total too rich for anybody's blood? 51.5. You're going to have a team that's riding Dalvin Cook, a team that's going to blitz the bejesus out of the Minnesota offense. I mean, I can very much see an under here, even with the firepower that Tampa Bay can throw out there in a Minnesota defense that's questionable at best. Does anyone want to ride with me on the under?
I don't mind the under. I think that, like, what does Tampa Bay do really well? Like, they stop the run. The Vikings are a team that wants to run the football, right? So if they don't have much success on the ground, and then again they're bringing a bunch of pressure at Kirk Cousins, I am a little bit more worried about the Minnesota side of the ball this week than I was last week, for sure. Obviously against Jacksonville. So I think the under is reasonable, especially at 52.5.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at exactly. What, Maddie? You're not with us? You ride alone?
Again, I don't know. I don't see a ton of value on the total. I think that the Bucs offense is going to eat here, so it's whether or not Minnesota can keep up.
All right. This is a less fun game, a less interesting game, far fewer playoff implications. In fact, almost no playoff implications whatsoever. It's Denver and Drew Lock versus Carolina and Teddy Bridgewater. It's in Carolina, in Charlotte, the Queen City, and the Panthers are 3.5-point favorites with a 46.5-point spread. We'll be quick on this one, unless somebody has some very deep thoughts that they're willing to share regarding Denver and Carolina. LaMarca, which side are you on? It's a 3.5-point spread.
Come on, man. These are the best games for betting, Dieter.
Why? Why is this the best game for betting? How about you explain that one to me?
So here's what you do. You have 2 bad teams, right? 2 teams with a winning percentage of 33% or less. You just grab the points. It's that simple. If you take the underdog in matchups like that, since 2006, 149, 127, and 6. So not an overwhelming trend, but I will say that this trend has been very profitable over the past few seasons in particular. So if we're looking back to just since the start of 2015, we have a record of 69, 42, and 2. So now we're getting up to over 62% on that.
Now we're cooking.
Trend. Just grab the points. It's that simple.
You grabbing the points, Joe?
This game's terrible, man. But I'm with LaMarca. Past 8 games where the Panthers have been favored by a field goal or more, 2-8, both straight up and against the spread. So, yeah, I just don't want anything to do with this game. And the total is so low that I don't really know if I'd want to even go near the under in this one either. So, yeah, I think I'm with LaMarca. Grab the points. I'm in full agreement right now. I wish I had something better for you.
Oh, no, listen, I'll take full agreement any day of the week, considering how our Sunday show went and overs nearly coming to blows.
It's the best Sunday show we've had.
I agree. We turned it into the real world, and suddenly the MTV model started to work, or VH1. I'm not really sure what those two channels do anymore, but I know it's not music. All right. That's the oldest thing I've ever said, by the way. Houston and Chicago. In Chicago, can the Bears bounce back from whatever the hell they did on Sunday against the Lions? The books do not like them. They hate them, in fact. Houston is a 2-point favorite, 1.5 in some spots, most spots, if we're being totally honest. 1.5-point favorites at Soldier Field. Deshaun Watson getting a whole lot of respect. No respect for my man, Mitch Trubisky. And that says a lot about how I'm doing this year overall, that I just said my man, Mitch Trubisky. Who wants to ride with me with Mitch? Who wants to take the points at home with the Chicago Bears, the monsters of the Midway, Khalil Mack, and all of the sadness that comes along with this team? LaMarca, do we ride? Do we ride together on this?
I don't know, man.
Oh, come on.
I almost just said I love Mitch Trubisky. My friends have been making fun of me for how much I bet on Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, they should be, considering.
I just think that he's better than he plays. I don't know what it is. I'm mesmerized by the big question with Houston going into last week was, how would their offense look without Will Fuller? And apparently no Will Fuller, no problem. Yep. You know, you've got Kiki Cutie and Chad Hansen combining for about 250 receiving yards. So just like we all thought, not a problem at all. Will Fuller, nah. Give me Chad Hansen. I still don't think Houston deserves to be road favorites over pretty much anyone right now. Chicago is a solid defensive team, or at least they're supposed to be. I don't know what's happened to them recently, but
yeah, exactly.
I still just think I have to take the points with Chicago as a home underdog here, just based on principle, Dieter. So I guess in conclusion, yes, we ride.
Thank you, sir. Joe, are you with us on the bandwagon?
I actually think that the Bears are interesting here, and I understand that they were able to put up some points on the Houston side without Will Fuller. I still think that that is a big loss for this team overall, and I actually think that this Bears defense, I mean, they're gonna rebound after this like really tough game against the Lions. Like, the Lions don't stop anyone, but that was pretty crazy to see how bad that Bears defense played overall. So I think one of the things that I'm kind of looking at is just the opposite. Mitch Trubisky, I don't really care about that, but the Houston run defense is pretty terrible, and David Montgomery has looked pretty good. Since he's been back from that concussion. He's got a little bit more burst. Yeah, he's got the last 2 weeks, he's had some burst. Like, he's active in the passing game. I'm getting just shredded by by Peter and by Leone, because I wanted to play Montgomery over Booker. They didn't understand that one, but like I still think that he has a very secure role, all of those things, and this is a good spot for him to keep it rolling. And he's very cheap in DFS still. So overall, I think that this could be a reasonable upset. I'm with LaMarca. I don't think the Texans should be really favored over anyone at this point.
Yeah, that's LaMarca's like, they shouldn't be road favorites. I'm like, should they be home favorites either? Like, what have they done to prove anything?
Right.
And by the way, this total of 44.5, if it plays out, well, damn. I mean, listen, I could see it going both ways. That's how totals work. Anyone have a strong feeling about a 44.5 point total in this one? Anyone betting on Watson going off and Mitch Trubisky matching him, or are we going to get a defensive struggle, or as it's known with these two games, offensive failure?
Yeah, I don't have much on the total here, LaMarca.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Let's go. Let's go with the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. God, I mean, sorry, Joe. We got to talk about this.
It's not good.
They're depressing. They're depressing to watch now against a team that was wholly depressing to watch up until they just went to Seattle and decided that defense wins games on the road. I don't know what the Giants are doing. I presume they didn't fly back to New York, so that matters a little bit. seeing that they probably stayed out on the West Coast, but I don't have that information. If someone could look that up right now, that'd be great. Whether in the chat or LaMarca or somebody. But Arizona and Kyler Murray are 2.5-point favorites against a Giants team, which I guess is led by Colt McCoy. I don't know, with a 45-point total. I mean, this is, if you would have told me this 4 weeks ago, I would have been flabbergasted. And right now, I'm not sure that 2.5 is fully deserved by the Cardinals, just given how they're playing with the sprained AC joint and Kyler Murray's throwing shoulder. Joe, you're our resident Cardinals fan, man. How much are you sweating?
It's not pretty, guys. Like the Cardinals, 5 straight games without covering, longest streak in the NFC right now, second longest in the NFL. And this Giants team, like we've talked about this a couple weeks in a row, I think. Like they've been a reasonably like safe bet like over the last few weeks because they're just not getting any respect whatsoever. 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 games. So I think that there's a chance that this defense is actually pretty good overall. They've been playing well lately. I guess this red hot Wayne Gallman running game that they got going for the Giants, it's working. It's not a great spot for this Cardinals team. Again, Kyler Murray, like he clearly is not right. So I'm a little bit worried. Now, I mean, we're talking about this Cardinals team being like a threat in the NFC, and then they lose. What is it, 4 straight or 5 straight at this part, LaMarca? It feels like 8 straight right now because of how they've been looking. But they were a threat. Now I don't know. Now I definitely I'm not ready to call them like a Super Bowl contender like I was 4 or 5 weeks ago. That's for sure.
Oh my God, no. LaMarca, what? 2.5 feels like a lot of respect going the Giants' way in a very short period of time, though. No,
that could be.
Yeah, so to answer Joe's question, they've lost 4 out of their past 5, the Cardinals, and their only win was that Hail Mary miracle against the Bills that DeAndre Hopkins is probably the only player in the league that comes up with that pass.
Yeah. So why would we want David Johnson when we can win games like that?
Hey, man, it was still a good trade. No one's arguing that it wasn't a good trade. The question is, do they have enough other than that guy to make it happen? And like Kyler can't push the ball downfield and he refuses to run. Like how much of that offense was just Kyler running around and doing crazy stuff? And
the Kyler running thing is a huge deal because prior to getting hurt, he was having arguably the greatest rushing season ever for a quarterback. I mean, through 10 games,
Lamar Jackson, by the way.
He was right there, man.
He was averaging more fantasy points per game on the ground than Jackson did last year.
That's wild.
He scored 10 touchdowns through 10 games, Dieter.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. The guy was averaging like 15 fantasy points with his legs. It was insane. But now he's not running, and that's a big problem for this team. This is really going to come down to the quarterback situation for me for the Giants. If it's Colt McCoy again, I cannot back them. I know that the Giants were able to cover last week based solely on, Joe Judge screaming at people and all the other, old school, old timey football things. But
the good
Colt
stuff.
McCoy is just not a good quarterback. He had 105 passing yards last week, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 2 sacks.
But he got the dub. Isn't that what good quarterback
is all
Wayne
about?
Gallman season, man. Wayne Gallman, the guy.
Yeah, and I'd like to make fun of the Giants for, the fact that their running game is basically better with Wayne Gallman and Alfred Morris than it was with Saquon Barkley. But if they didn't take Barkley there, they would have taken Sam Darnold, and they'd probably be in worse shape if we're being honest. So, again, I want Daniel Jones under center. If Jones is under center, I will be on the Giants with the 2.5. If it's McCoy again, I'm going in the other direction.
All right, 2 reasons that I'm going to be in on the Cardinals, and I might regret both of these. In fact, I'm already feeling a twinge of regret having not even stated it yet. One, FF Doom coming in the chat telling us that the Giants went back to New York. That's just stupid. I understand that Arizona's in Mountain Time Zone right now, but going from New York to Seattle, back to New York so that you can then fly to Arizona is just a recipe to have an entirely dehydrated team. You just get dehydrated on airplanes, man. It's not good. So I'm out on the Giants for that reason alone. And then, second one, if I had to add something in, like Cardinals got to be desperate, right? Like they're feeling this bad boy slip away. They got lucky that the Niners lost last night, but now them and Minnesota are neck and neck. Like the heat is on. They lost their cushion. So if they have anything, they got to show it now. And this Giants team, again, is going to come in extremely dehydrated. Tom Herman, the Texas coach, would be very upset with them. He'd say they're bad teammates, but it's an entire team thing. Joe Judge, I don't know what this is about, man. Hang out in Arizona for a week. I know that there's a lot of teams hanging out in Arizona, but I'm sure they can find a third spot for you. There's a lot of land out there. Very silly. Very silly.
Remember, folks, if you're traveling cross country, stay hydrated. Listen to Dr. Kurtenbach.
I've been on too many dude, NBA playoffs in past years when I was with the Warriors day in and day out, the amount of just like you're on a plane. You just don't even realize like what city you're in when you wake up every morning. You just realize how dehydrated you get just sitting there in that dry, recycled air in airplanes. Like it's really bad. You have to hydrate. And like, I just really don't like the travel aspect of things. I mean, getting guys to play at peak performance, I don't think that it's a good idea to fly back from Seattle to New York and then go to Arizona a couple of days later. Like it's going to take 2 days to recover each way. Like it's just silly. Most teams fly out 2 days ahead of time if they're going to the West Coast. This is a mistake. This is some nonsense. This is just nonsense. Also, the game's in New York, so all of this is stupid.
Is it actually?
Yeah, I don't know what I was missing there.
Well, we can clip that and just like play that the next time someone does something like this, and then we don't have to worry about it.
I just wanted to get that information out there. Like, don't get dehydrated. So good luck, Arizona. You're on the road.
Makes sense. They should not have gone to Arizona then, Dieter.
Thanks, chat. Thanks for letting them go on that 5-minute rant, and not letting us own the games. And
how is that not the highlight of the show though? Just me being a total jerkwad. Like that's a beautiful situation. All right, let's talk about a game that I'm going to double check it here is in Cincinnati. I'm seeing that it is in Cincinnati. Please correct me if I'm wrong. They were really now they're letting me know. Jeez Louise. Yeah, okay, Dallas and Cincinnati. Oh my God, we're actually gonna have to talk about this game. Dallas 3.5-point favorites on the road. Yes, they are indeed on the road. It's a 43.5-point total. Go ahead. I gotta shut the hell up.
Revenge game, Dieter.
This game is a gift. This game is a gift from the gambling gods. Take Andy Dalton, lay the 3.5, and say thank you. The Bengals offense with Brandon Allen is abysmal. They had 196 yards last week versus the Dolphins. They had 155 yards 2 weeks ago against the Giants. And oh yeah, they don't play any defense either. So I don't understand how they can keep this game close. If you can't move the ball and you can't stop anybody, how are you supposed to make a game competitive, Joe?
You can't, right? I don't like what you just said. If that is accurate, then you're not going to win many football games for sure. I mean, I don't know. This is a weird one. The Bengals or the Cowboys have been terrible against the spread all season, 2-9. But I mean, it's one of the worst it might be the worst mark in the NFL. If not, it's pretty close. Cowboys also 1-6, both straight up and against the spread in their last 7 road games as well. I was hoping that we would get Andy Dalton versus Joe Burrow here, like the true revenge spot. But I like Dalton a lot in this one overall, so I'm with you on it.
Sounds good. You want to talk Jets and Seahawks? Is there redemption in Jets and Seahawks? This game is in Seattle. I got that right. Minus 13.5 for Seattle. Do they deserve 13.5 over the Jets, who almost won this past week against a Raiders team that is just puzzling? So maybe we shouldn't put too much stock into it. 13.5. Anyone want to take the Jets here?
Go ahead, LaMarca. These games are hard for me when it's just a clear like talent difference between them. Like fantasy is like these type of games are easier for me to dissect from a fantasy perspective than a betting perspective, and the Jets are really hard to back.
Yeah, I think the general perception right now is that it is too many points for the Jets, and if you look at the early betting numbers, 57% of the bets and 61% of the dollars are landing on New York. But I'm taking Seattle. Russell Wilson in his career is 25-13-4 against the spread off of a loss. The Jets stink. They lost on purpose and then fired their defensive coordinator. So
I don't think they lost on purpose. I think that Greg Williams has never seen an issue that he can't out blitz that like that's like the ultimate default. Like, oh man, we have a big down, blitz everybody. And it really backfired. By the way, good opportunity here to remind you all to stay hydrated on airplanes as the Jets fly across the country from New Jersey to Seattle.
I can't wait to change the thumbnail to just like an airplane and like Dieter carrying 18 waters in his arms. Like,
I need that Cam Newton giant water bottle
Yeah.
that he carries in.
Yeah.
I need that in real life, and I need that legitimately for the thumbnail. Yeah,
We can agree on at least one thing here, right? Like we were just talking about the Giants, a lot different to play against this. Like I guess the Seahawks, a tough spot, obviously that the Giants playing better, but it's a lot different against the Jets, right? We can agree on totally different spot, great bounce back spot, all that jazz.
Oh yeah, bounce back, elite bounce back spot.
Yeah,
but can they cover it? 13.5. I mean, the Seahawks, do they just go nuclear? Did they just try to wash away all of their sins of the past week and just make the Jets regret ever showing up in Seattle?
There's just no one that can stop DK Metcalf. Can we just end it there? Like, there's not one guy on the Jets that can stop DK Metcalf.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, listen, unless Adam Gase can somehow coordinate the Seahawks offense, that could slow it down. All right, let's go with LaMarca's Indianapolis Colts versus the Las Vegas Raiders. 2.5-point favorites the Colts are in Las Vegas. Speaking of dehydration, 51.5. 51.5, and LaMarca is so upset with how his Colts are doing. He's
out
left.
of here.
So Joe,
out of here.
Share your thoughts on this game. 2.5 points on the road for a Colts team that, you know, they showed us something, but it's hard to buy in on.
It's interesting because this Colts running game, like now they have like a serviceable like committee almost to do a lot of different things. Like had a little bit of Jonathan Taylor last week, which was solid. The Raiders, like, I mean, they haven't looked good on defense at all. So I think there's going to be some success that the Colts will be able to have on the ground in this one. It's gotten a little bit easier to trust Rivers over the last few weeks. Derek Carr has been a lot more volatile. We were on him in DFS last week, which was great. The week before, he was very popular and failed. So it's an interesting spot overall, I think, from a fantasy perspective. From a betting perspective, the Colts have been kind of a disaster. I know Lamar. Now that LaMarca is not here, I can talk about these time zone trends because I think that's reasonable for some of these guys. Again, traveling, getting on airplanes, that sort of stuff.
Let's do it.
Is this game's at the Raiders? Yeah, I'm going to double check that one. 1-5 straight up, and 1-4-1 against the spread in their past 6 games in the Pacific time zone. So having to travel a little bit. So the Colts, I think they've been a pretty strong road favorite overall this year. 3 straight wins, 3 straight covers there. The Raiders also have been relatively strong as an underdog, 6-3 against the spread in their past 9 games, only 3-6 straight up. So I think there's a lot to kind of dissect with this one overall. I think the Colts win here though, and I think they cover. I think that's where my early stance will be, I guess, this week.
LaMarca's not big into total, so let's talk this 51.5. Is that too rich given what we've seen out of the Colts? And certainly we don't know what Josh Jacobs is going to do or if he's going to play or not for the Raiders. And that does change the way they go about their business a little bit because you just can't have Booker or Richard be a bell cow back, like really carry it the way that they have Josh Jacobs carry it, which has also landed Josh Jacobs on the injury list the last 9 weeks in a row and finally knocked him out of a game full stop this past week and perhaps again this week. It was at 52. It's down to 51.5. So we've already lost a hook on it. Is that too rich considering the way I would venture to say both of these teams want to play?
I think so. I think that, like you said, I don't know if there's going to be a ton of plays overall in this game because both teams are going to probably try and want to control both sides of the ball for sure. The under is 64% of the money right now, only 44% of the bets. So, I mean, it's not a huge difference, I guess, early in the week, but I do think the under is the right call in this one. It's a shame that we don't have LaMarca to talk about the Colts because he's been like the biggest Colts backer all season.
It's been annoying. Yeah. It's been annoying how much of a Colts backer he's been.
Yeah.
Didn't he say that they were going to have the best record in the NFL at one point? Can we just slander LaMarca for the next 2 minutes?
Yeah, I was going to avoid this scene, but now we just have LaMarca with no seat, or not in his seat, so it's almost funnier.
The empty chair.
Yeah, the empty chair. I think that this one's, pretty tough overall to be, I guess, on the over. I think the under might be even a better play than a side in this one.
I like that. I like that a lot too. We're just going to skip it. He doesn't even get to talk about his Colts, and we're going to move on to Washington and San Francisco. The Niners were embarrassing yesterday, and I don't know, man. When you have Nick Mullins as your quarterback, I'm not sure what the hell else you're supposed to expect. And Washington has this awesome defensive line. I don't know how Nick Mullins' life doesn't become a living hell. And I think the total reflects that with the 43.5 point total on this one. But the Niners favored by 3.5 and in some places 4. Does that jive with you at all?
Man, Alex Smith has looked pretty good, like a little bit of
That's what I'm
momentum
thinking.
here for this Washington football team. So I don't really think very highly of the 49ers. I get it. They're coming off of a game on Monday night. So I think that's interesting. Both teams kind of, they're teams that like kind of grind away at you, right? So they're both like, I don't know how interesting this game is from a fantasy perspective, but from a betting perspective, Washington has been pretty terrible since the start of 2019, 3-10 straight up, 6-9 against the spread in road games. So if they lose, like all the way down to 3-11, I don't know. That's a tough one for me. The 49ers also not very good 5-14-1 against the spread in their last 20 games where they've been favored by 4 or more points. So I think I want the Washington side on this one, but it's kind of gross overall. Thoughts?
Well, you got the revenge game for Alex Smith. I don't know. We've had so much stuff going on in Alex Smith's life that I'm not sure if that stands at the top of the list, but still revenge game for Alex Smith. Mullins, I mean, the book is out on the dude. If you fluster him at all, he's just going to throw it into quadruple coverage. He's not a good third down quarterback, which when you're kind of a game manager and you don't have like a big arm or the ability to run, like you would think that you would just be like super accurate and know what you're doing on third down, but he doesn't seem to know that against, let's be honest, a Buffalo defense that has been totally uninspiring all year. So I'm not really sure. It's not like they were getting pressure on him in any way, shape, or form. If this is going to be a game of physicality, like I think I take Washington in it just because I'm not sure what the Niners are playing for anymore. And you could kind of see them take their foot off the pedal once, it was pretty clear that Buffalo was going to win that game yesterday. Like the Niners didn't have juice on the defensive side yesterday. And for a lot of reasons, right? Like they're living in Arizona, like that they can't go home and now their season's pretty much over. I don't know, man. If it's a physicality game, Washington has something to play for. These two teams have the same record. One team has nothing to play for. The other team has everything to play for, such as the NFC East. But like, neutral site. Alex Smith, a Washington team that is playing with a lot of juice, though they're not all that talented. And if they can get the Niners to go into a man-to-man defense, I think that really bodes well, all things considered. So I think I'm just going to take the points here. Yeah. If the books are throwing out 3.5 as part of a nine, like if they were saying that the Niners are going to be 6.5 point favorites in Santa Clara, like that just doesn't jive with me whatsoever. This feels like a pick'em game to me, and that they're counting this as a San Francisco home game, which it is not. And while, maybe being in, Arizona for 2 weeks in a row breeds some familiarity, they're still sitting in hotels all day. Like, I don't like that either. We're talking about dehydration. We're talking about sitting in hotels all day. I got all the narratives for you, LaMarca. Are you doing okay, buddy? Do we need to catch you up, get you up to speed? Because
I miss?
Everything good, man? I don't know. What game did we go through? It was a gross game anyway. We talked Colts, man. We got to go back almost.
Do you want to talk? You have any thoughts on the Colts?
I love the Colts.
I know.
I just don't know if I love them this week.
Wow. No loyalty.
I know. I mean, I can only go down with the team so many times, Dieter. Now, granted, they did get the job done last week against Houston, even though I expected them to play a little bit better than they did.
Right.
So,
all right.
Vegas is like my kryptonite team.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost money with them the past 2 weeks. I thought they were going to just blow the Jets out of the water. I don't understand how, given their situation,
they're not well coached.
They couldn't come in and take care of business. Like, they know that they're in the playoff hunt, right?
No, they do. Like, I once heard Dick Vermeil say that kind of the goal of coaching above all else is to make sure that one loss doesn't turn into many losses. And the Raiders had that very close loss, kind of a moral victory against the Chiefs, and then followed it up with just a absolute ass kicking at the hands of the Falcons and then nearly losing to the Jets. So what does that say about the coaching in Las Vegas? Like, it just says that John Gruden isn't all that great at it, which is hilarious because like 3 weeks ago we were like, is John Gruden the NFL coach of the year? No, he isn't. He just hadn't gotten caught yet because you can only run one young guy into the line so many times before it comes back and bites you in the ass. So I'm with you. I'm not betting them. Like I'm not betting the Raiders because they do have the talent to just go thermonuclear at any moment. And like Derek Carr's not like terrible, but he's also not consistently good. So I don't. We both ended up on the Colts.
Derek Carr is my Derrick Henry. Like I just never get him right.
We should just never put money on Derek's. I think that's the general policy.
I'm 1-0 in like the last like 3 years of Derek Carr. I never play him. Played him last week, so I'm good. It's like my Gronk. I get to play him like once every 2 years, and if it works out, great. Never have to think about it again.
Isn't that really a Darren Waller play though?
I mean, God, was he a stud last week?
It was so awesome. That was highly enjoyable. And Darren Waller's one of if you don't love Darren Waller, I just don't know what to do for you. Like he's awesome, and what a guy. All right, so we're Joe and I are both in on Washington. I guess I don't know. Do we want to take the over here?
I like the side a lot better. 72% of the money, 47% of the bets early on. I think I'm with you. You guys take the points with Washington.
All right, LaMarca, you have any thoughts when it comes to Washington and San Francisco and Arizona?
Man, it feels like the time to buy low on San Fran. And
you can't say San Fran and actually bet on them. That's like a tried and true rule of this area.
Are you not allowed to say that?
You're not allowed to say San Fran. People hate it.
Is that true?
Really? Why?
I listen. It doesn't make any damn sense. But I'm telling you right now. Here's another lesson for you from Dr. Dieter. People in San Francisco hate it when you call it San Fran. It's like nails on a chalkboard to them. It's like a weird idiosyncratic thing. I had a guy who came on my radio show the other day in San Francisco, and he called it San Fran, and the lines lit up just ready to ream into this very nice and very good guest. So,
listen, I can't wait. I'm going directly to Twitter, and I'm going to call it San Fran the rest of the week. I'm going to talk about this game all the time, and hopefully I can just get San Francisco or San Fran people in my mentions. That sounds like fun.
That would be like if Joe was like, no, it's Joseph. Call me Joseph Holka.
Yeah. Dude, people do that all the time, though.
Yep.
I'm not arguing that it's a good concept. I'm just telling you, be careful.
Tough scene.
Washington coming off of a win against the previously undefeated team, and San Francisco losing a game. Like it just feels like that San Francisco is going to be the correct side. I do agree that this line is a little bit suspicious, but it moved from 4.5 on the advanced spread to 3.5 after yesterday's performances. The betting activity is heavy Washington right now, so it wouldn't shock me if it got down to 3. And if it does, I think I'm going to be on San Francisco.
Thank you.
Just doesn't roll off the tongue the way San Fran
No,
does.
it's too many syllables.
Yep.
No. By the way, they're not even in San Francisco. They play in Santa Clara normally. Santa Clara is just north of San Jose, and they can't even play there anymore. So the Arizona the Santa Clara, what is it? No, it's the San Francisco 49ers of Santa Clara in Arizona. That's where we're at with that team. Just call them the Niners.
Against the Washington football team. Gross.
Against the Washington football team. What a hot mess of a game this is. The NFL just has to pretend like this game isn't happening for their own sake. New Orleans and Philadelphia. Do we get Jalen Hurts this week? Do we not see Carson Wentz anymore? Because much like saying San Fran in the city, it's just nails on a chalkboard every time you have to watch Carson Wentz play quarterback. Do we finally get reprieve from Carson Wentz?
Dieter, you skipped right over the Taysom Hill thing. You want to let the people know what happened on Sunday with Taysom Hill and Derek Carr? Like it was a tough show for you, man.
I'm killing it this week. Last 3 days have been going great.
I mean, last week it was a tough show for you.
Maybe I've been on an airplane and getting dehydrated. Taysom Hill's okay at this. He's fine. I mean, I'm going to stay on the top of the Taysom Hill. I'm willing to die on that hill that he's not actually a quarterback, but it's getting pretty lonely up there. If I'm being totally honest, he had a pretty good game. He's a 7-point favorite at Philadelphia. As well, he should be.
That's all I wanted. LaMarca, what's going on here?
I've been right about many things, but it seems that the only things anyone wants to remember is how wrong I am, because I'm really killing it with the wrongs lately. Big fat wrongs. Good stuff. Who wants to take Philly? Who wants to take the former Alabama and Oklahoma quarterback Jalen Hurts if he is
I'm
indeed?
not even convinced that we're going to get Jalen Hurts.
Why? Why not? What is Doug Peterson doing? What job is he trying to save?
Carson Wentz's, I guess. I don't know. Like, it seems like Jalen Hurts was kind of just, let's give the team a shot in the arm last week, and it worked, by the way.
Yeah.
But this team has so much money tied to Carson Wentz. They can get out of his contract after 2021 if they're willing to eat, roughly 25 million in salary cap. But if they don't do that, he's on the books until 2024. It's very hard to see an NFL team just being like, who's a sunk cost? The guy that we just gave $120 million to.
How about will we see Drew Brees in this game? We go to our newsbreaker, Joe Holka.
Oh, Anthony Amico in the chat right now letting me know that I'm just dumb talking about Taysom Hill, but it looks like we might get Brees in this one. Does that change anything? Doesn't change much for me. I want to be as far away from anything Eagles for the foreseeable future, for sure.
I'm just thinking that. I mean, dude, the Saints have a better chance of winning if Taysom Hill is their quarterback.
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm not crazy. Listen. I've been wrong on Taysom Hill so many times, I'm starting to just contrarian my own contrarian views and go all in on it. That maybe he's the future of the quarterback position and that I'm the moron out here. But, I guess we're going to go with, Drew Brees, who's going to throw it after. He's just going to no-lace it to Michael Thomas 42 times in a row and still win because
Kamara season finally again. That'd be nice. I wouldn't mind playing Kamara again. That's been not fun.
Do you think that that's going to be a thing where like people are going to be like, oh man, no, we can't do Kamara anymore because Taysom.
Well, he's got the Taysom Hill price on DraftKings right now. If Brees plays this game, Kamara's going to be the chalk.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. Atlanta, who I don't bet on anymore. The Chargers, who you should never bet on, at SoFi Stadium. God bless it. This is a rough game, man. Atlanta's a 2.5-point favorite in Los Angeles. Again, they just got beat 45-0 by the Patriots. The Chargers did 49.5-point spread. LaMarca, what do you got on this game, man? Come on.
Yeah, I when I broke this game down, I was like, okay, so the Chargers are better on offense than the Patriots in terms of DVOA.
Right.
They're better on defense than the Patriots in terms of DVOA.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a monster gap in terms of special teams.
It's almost like coaching matters,
too. And a monster gap in terms of coaching.
Yeah.
And I was like, how much could that really matter?
Well, we found out.
It turns out it mattered to the tune of about 45 points.
Okay. What kind of a gap are we seeing here with Raheem Morris, interim head coach in Atlanta?
Less, I would imagine.
Bill Belichick? Yeah, I think that's fair.
But I think that Anthony Lynn, I don't know. I like Anthony Lynn, by the way. I watched Hard Knocks, and I was like,
you can like him as a person. I don't think he's a bad
this
person.
Gets it. He was taking all this stuff very seriously, all the COVID stuff, and
that's great.
He's just not a good football coach.
There we go.
So I don't think you can bet on the Chargers until they make a change. And by the way, the same goes for Atlanta. Just ignore this game, except in DFS.
Whatever you think they should do in this game, just assume they're going to do the opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have any thoughts on it, Joe, or can we move on?
I mean, you said it. The Chargers haven't covered since October, guys. So, they're literally 0-6 against the spread, longest active non-covering streak in the NFL. So, yeah, this game scares me on so many levels, so I would just rather prefer it didn't exist.
By the way, let's just go over the 4 o'clock slate here real quick and wallow in our own sadness. The games at the 4 o'clock Eastern slate are the Jets and the Seahawks, the Colts and the Raiders, which is standing out as just a de facto, an awesome matchup. Washington and Washington and San Francisco, New Orleans and Philadelphia, Atlanta and the Chargers, and finally Green Bay at Detroit. Green Bay 7.5-point favorites on the road because what else would they be? 55.5-point total over the Leons. I don't know. Are we buying anything on the Detroit side after that just rollicking performance to close the game against the Bears, Matt
I'm
LaMarca?
in. I'm in
You're
on
in.
Detroit. Yep. I did not
Good
realize
luck
how
to you.
hated Matt Patricia was.
Valid.
The way they
I
talked
told you.
about
I
him.
told you. You didn't
the-
listen.
well, you know what, Dieter? I needed to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. I
50,
should have listened
53
to
horses'
you,
mouths.
the largest jockey in the history of the world. But no, they talked about it like a dictator being overthrown. Marvin Jones said he had the first time he had that was the first game he had fun playing football in years.
Mm.
The way they talked about this guy, it was a straight body bag job.
Yeah.
And then you look at Rodgers, he is not a historically good quarterback as a road favorite,
Mm.
particularly when we're getting to the 7+ point range.
Right.
He hasn't been favored by that much all that often, but 5-8 against the spread as a favorite of at least 7 points on the road. So I'm buying Detroit. I am, and I want them at this number. I'm grabbing them now at 7.5, so I don't miss it.
You think it will go down to 6.5?
Well, I mean, right now the Lions are getting 97% of the dollars. So
That
yes, I
should
will.
probably do it. Yeah. That seems like a pretty good indication. Yeah. Okay. Sharp LaMarca in on the Lions. How you feeling about it, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to bring up the 97% of the money. The first thing that kind of popped up for me is whoa. But I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we see it happen, like we saw it happen with Bill O'Brien, the Texans. They have like this next game after that. Everyone's loose.
Dead
They're
coach
excited.
down.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it happens in other sports too. So like Babcock for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he's like a very like old school coach. Has had a lot of success on the Red Wings and all that at the Olympic level. All of those things, but just like these new players that come in, like that's not how you get these athletes to perform these days. Like you have to be a human being at some level. So like when those guys get pushed out by some of these younger players, these younger stud players, like a lot of times it's like they can finally take a breath and be themselves. So I'm in. I'm in on Detroit. Scary. That division stinks.
Oh my God, does it stink? The Sunday night game doesn't stink though. It's Pittsburgh at Buffalo in Buffalo, so that should be fun. Buffalo in December, always a good time. I'm seeing 1.5 on DraftKings and Pinnacle, 1.5 for Buffalo. I'm seeing a pick 'em in a lot of spots. Matt LaMarca, are you seeing something different here than the 47-point spread and a 1.5-point favorite Buffalo Bills?
The consensus around the industry is pick 'em, but you're right. This line is varying pretty dramatically based on where you're looking. You can get Pittsburgh favored by as many as 3 points in some spots.
Where? Tell me of that book, sir.
I will legally not be able to mention that, sir.
Cool.
And then on, like you said, on DraftKings, it's Bills minus 1.5. I think that again, I'm always looking to buy the team that is everybody is all of a sudden down on, and like how many people were like Pittsburgh is the most fraudulent
I believe that would be
11-0
Tony
team, which
A
to
in
me
the
is just
chat
the
right
most
now.
idiotic saying you could have.
Tony
The
A,
most
Pittsburgh is a fraud in the chat.
most fraudulent undefeated team ever after 12 weeks. Like the sample size there is large, real large. So I think that this is probably a pretty good spot to buy Pittsburgh. I would like it if Marquise Pouncey was back in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one to monitor, but given how fast Roethlisberger gets the ball out of his hands, it doesn't matter as much as it would for other teams.
Maddie, tell me the numbers that you would need to see in order to take the other side. So if you're seeing Pittsburgh -3, are you still in on Pittsburgh? And what number would that have to go to make you take Buffalo?
No. So
what number would
again,
you
I'm not interested in playing Buffalo because it feels like you're buying high on them.
Okay.
But if this line was where it was initially scheduled, which was 2.5, 3 points for the Steelers, I would not have interest in them. It's the fact that I can get them now as an underdog as opposed to a road favorite.
That makes sense to me. Joe, are we just buying the Bills? Looked awesome. Like I don't know how to put it any other way. I understand that Pittsburgh's a much different team than San Francisco, but like Josh Allen looked awesome.
First
You
off,
got to be in on
Dieter,
that.
like you can't goat LaMarca into talking about a non-regulated book. We are a public company, Dieter. CSE BETS, that is our ticker. And when you have a ticker, you have to talk about real betting markets.
I was legitimately curious if there was a legitimate betting market that had that number out there. Don't be throwing out unregulated numbers.
We are a publicly traded okay, anyways. The Bills. Honestly, I agree with you. They looked very good. But in this spot, like this is just a historical spot that they have not been very good at overall. As a home underdog, they are 4-11 straight up, 5-10 against the spread in their last 15 games in that spot. So I don't want anything to do with it personally. One of the trends that I know LaMarca is not going to like is that at least like in these prime time games, they have not been good to Buffalo. 1-6 straight up, 1-5-1 against the spread in night games over the last 5 years. So take that for what it's worth. But I definitely want to be on the Pittsburgh side.
Well, they said last night that was their first win on Monday Night Football since Doug Flutie was
born. God.
1999, baby, against the Dolphins.
Good God. That's rough.
It's a good game. It's a good game. They had really wide shoulder pads at that time. I'm in on Buffalo, man. They looked awesome. I'm going to buy. I don't care. I'm buying high because I think it's only going to go up from here. And I don't think Pittsburgh's fraudulent, but I think Buffalo might be a better team.
Dieter's the guy that bought Bitcoin at 19K and is victory lapping it when it's finally a positive purchase like 3 years later.
That is extremely accurate.
But he held through the entire time. That's the positive thing. He didn't care. He was gonna hold that card for 3 years until it was profitable.
By the way, my friend says Bitcoin's gonna be 100K next year.
I heard that 3 years ago.
I'm a coiner, guys. You guys don't know this.
I'm a coiner too.
I am a coiner. Yeah.
It is an absolutely stunningly accurate take there, Joe. I don't think that you're going to be able to beat that at all. But, hey, good times are back again. Baltimore and Cleveland, good times back in Cleveland. They're going to make the playoffs. They are a pick 'em in some place. Like, this is just a hot mess of a line, probably, because Baltimore still has to play today.
Usually is important.
So I don't know. If it was a pick 'em, who would you like? Obviously, with one game still in the balance between these two. Anyone want to take Baltimore Ravens? Want to get in early? It will be Matt LaMarca. Matt LaMarca, why do you want to do that?
Because Cleveland sucks. Cleveland sucks. I know that they put up 41 against the Titans. I don't care. This team's there. I'm going down with this ship. I'm going to fade Cleveland into oblivion. And eventually it's going to work. Well, I shouldn't say eventually. It worked 2 weeks ago against Jacksonville. And I think it works again against Baltimore.
Yeah.
The fact that this line has moved to a pick'em after initially being Baltimore -3, that's 3 points of spread value just for free. Just because, hey, Cleveland didn't kill themselves last week. Thank you. I'll take it. I am going to bet against this team every chance I get. This is a mediocre 500, maybe even sub 500 talent level football team.
Oh my goodness.
They were their Pythagorean win expectation last week was 5-6. And yet their actual record was 8-3.
Yeah.
And they played great against the Titans. I already mentioned that I overlooked the Jadeveon Clowney thing last week. I should have given that more weight. Baker had all day to do whatever he wanted. The running game was unstoppable for Cleveland. That doesn't happen against Baltimore. That's not going to happen this week.
Can you argue with that, Joe?
That's a strong take, my friend. So I don't have anything so strong on this game overall. I guess the Ravens have dominated the Browns, at least in recent memory. Last 10 meetings between these teams, 8-2 straight up, 7-3 against the spread. I don't know how relevant that is because the Browns have been so bad for so long. So I do want to be on the Ravens side of this one. I'm with you on that. The Ravens have not been very good in prime time recently, but I do think that the Browns are at least slightly fraudulent with what they've been able to do the last few weeks.
Gentlemen, let's talk narrative and let's talk big picture narrative. The Browns have 9 wins. 10 more or less guarantees them in the playoffs. I don't know if it officially clinch, but man, it would feel like a clincher. If they could beat the Baltimore Ravens, the team that used to be the Cleveland Browns, to clinch a playoff spot for the first time since 2002. I mean, half of Cleveland's already on fire, but they'd take the other half with them. I mean, that's a narrative of all narratives. So I don't think it's going to happen. And I'll take Baltimore too. But it's a fun concept mentally, for the people of Cleveland. They could sure use the upside because the Indians are going to trade away Lindor and the Cavs still suck. So, I guess go Buckeyes. All right. Best bet of the week. Any of these bets really tickle your fancy? It seems like LaMarca is very in on the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football, despite the fact that we still have a Tuesday Night Football game to play.
I am, but the uncertainty, I can't officially give them as a best bet because we're still waiting for the line in a couple places. So I am going to grab Dallas minus 3.5 on the road. And I know I just said that I can't take the Ravens because of the uncertainty because they haven't played yet. I know that the same counts for Dallas, but I just can't believe this line. Cincinnati should be a double-digit underdog in every game that they play with Brandon Allen at quarterback.
All right, who do you got, Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to go with an upset here. I do like the Bears plus 2.5 at blitzbet.eu over the Texans in this one. I think they rebound after a pretty tough outing last week. I still don't think that Houston's going to be able to kind of keep up without Will Fuller. I don't buy into this 1 week sample size of this new Houston offense.
Give me the New York Giants at home against Arizona. Arizona 2.5-point favorites on the road. I haven't seen enough out of them, man. I haven't seen a lot out of the Giants either, but at least they won't be dehydrated when they play that game, whereas Arizona very well could be. LaMarca, tell the folks.
The dehydration narrative is live.
You teed yourself up for that one. I love it. I respect it.
Beautiful. LaMarca, tell the folks when they can read and see you next.
My betting preview for the main slate will be good to go. Usually early Thursday is when that gets posted. Big main slate this week. 13 games on the main slate. So I'm going to be locked in my chambers, just grinding for the next 24, 48 hours or so.
Joe, when are you on next, baby? You're always on, but
do we have time to talk about it? The Joe Holka Show, Mondays, Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern time on my YouTube channel. Also adding a very short show with Peter Overzet right before Thursday Night Football, where we're just going to talk only Showdown for about 15-20 minutes. So 7:30 p.m. Eastern time for that. Directly after that, we have our main slate breakdown at 8 p.m. Eastern time on the Line Movement YouTube channel. Sunday morning, my show at 9:30 Eastern time, and then directly after at 11 a.m. Eastern time, the Line Movement pre-kickoff show. I think that's all of it, but probably missed a show in there. There's a lot going on. Tilt Space that night. I think that's pretty much it.
Tilt Space was wild this past week. I mean, it was just, what was Overzet drinking? A Red Stripe? Just that's how low it had gotten.
Guys out of control.
Either a Red Stripe or a Coors Banquet.
Ooh, love a good Coors Banquet every now and again. Folks, if you need a regulated betting website, may we recommend blitzbet.eu. It is constantly hydrated, very, very well done. Blitzbet.eu for all of your wonderful betting needs and the best lines. I mean, we're talking about some lines out here. They're crazy. They're absolutely ridiculous lines, not to go full Christopher Walken. Blitzbet.eu, best lines, best numbers. You should play it. So use that and we'll talk soon.